When archaeologists excavate Iron Age Celtic settlements, one animal appears again and again in the soil layers, burial sites, and ritual deposits. Dogs, not in the way food animals appear, discarded, fragmented, and mixed with refuse, but placed deliberately, carefully, and often meaningfully. This alone tells us something important. To the Celtic peoples of Iron Age Europe, dogs were not interchangeable livestock. They occupied a different category entirely, one that sat somewhere between tool, companion, and symbol. Understanding what dogs the Celts kept means looking not at modern breed labels, but at bones, burial patterns, wear marks, and historical descriptions. When we do, a surprisingly clear picture begins to emerge. Across Celtic Europe, from Britain and Ireland to Gaul and Central Europe, archaeologists consistently find two broad categories of dogs. The first are large, long-limbed hounds, often represented by robust leg bones and elongated skulls. These animals were significantly taller than average domestic dogs of the period and were built for speed and strength rather than endurance alone. These remains are most commonly found in elite contexts, near high-status settlements, in association with weapons, or in graves containing prestige goods. This strongly suggests that large hounds were not everyday animals, but markers of rank. These dogs are widely considered ancestral to later giant sighthounds, most notably the Irish wolfhound. While the modern breed was reconstructed centuries later, its size and proportions closely match Roman descriptions of British and Irish dogs. Classical writers such as Strabo and Gratius describe dogs from Celtic lands as unusually large and powerful, and Roman demand for these animals was high. Some were exported across the empire for hunting and display, and others were used in arenas. Archaeological wear patterns on the bones of large Celtic dogs suggest active working lives. Joint stress, healed fractures, and muscle attachment points indicate animals that ran long distances and engaged with large prey. These were not ornamental dogs, they were hunters. In regions corresponding to modern Scotland, similar skeletal remains suggest dogs that were slightly lighter and faster, likely contributing to what later became the Scottish deerhound. These animals appear particularly suited to open terrain and deer hunting, and their remains are often found near sites associated with elite hunting activity. The distribution of large hound remains is not uniform. They appear far less frequently than smaller dogs, reinforcing the idea that ownership was restricted by wealth and social position. Feeding a dog of that size required resources. Maintaining it required land and game. Owning one was a visible signal of power. The second category of dogs found archaeologically is far more common: medium-sized, versatile working dogs. These dogs appear in almost every type of Celtic settlement. Their bones are found in domestic areas, near hearths, and alongside other everyday tools of life. They are sturdily built, with proportions suggesting strength and endurance rather than speed. These animals likely served as guards for homes and livestock, early warning systems against intruders, vermin controllers, small game hunters. Unlike the large hounds, these dogs show fewer signs of specialized stress, suggesting a wide range of tasks rather than a single intense role. Importantly, these dogs are rarely found butchered. Their remains are usually complete, indicating they were not eaten except perhaps in rare ritual circumstances. This distinction between animals raised for food and animals treated differently in death is one of the strongest archaeological indicators that dogs held a special status in Celtic society. Some of the most revealing evidence comes from dog burials. Across Celtic Europe, archaeologists have uncovered dogs buried alone, dogs buried near humans, and dogs buried in ritual contexts. These burials are careful, deliberate, and distinct from waste disposal. In some cases, dogs were laid on their sides, positioned as if sleeping. In others, they were placed near entrances, boundaries, or sacred spaces, locations that suggest symbolic roles as guardians. The presence of grave goods in some dog burials, such as collars, ornaments, or placement near weapons, suggests emotional or ritual significance rather than simple disposal. These practices align closely with Celtic belief systems, in which animals, especially dogs, occupied liminal roles between worlds. This symbolic role is also visible in Celtic art. Dogs appear frequently in latten metalwork, carvings, and decorative objects. They are often shown alongside warriors or in hunting scenes, reinforcing their association with protection, courage, and elite identity. In mythology, dogs appear not as wild, chaotic creatures, but as disciplined, loyal figures tied to duty. One of the clearest examples is Cú Chulainn, whose very name links heroism with the role of a guard dog. From an archaeological perspective, mythology helps explain burial practices. If dogs were seen as protectors in life and death, their careful placement in graves and sacred spaces makes sense. Evidence also suggests that dogs played a role in warfare, though not as organized battlefield units. Large hounds may have accompanied warriors to intimidate enemies or guard camps. Heavy collars, found in some contexts, occasionally reinforced, support the idea that dogs were expected to confront danger, whether from animals or humans. However, the relative scarcity of war-related dog injuries suggests dogs were valued too highly to be used recklessly. A trained dog represented years of effort and was not easily replaced. When the Romans encountered Celtic societies, they quickly recognized the value of their dogs. Written sources confirm that Roman elites actively sought dogs from Britain and Ireland, particularly large hunting hounds. Archaeological evidence supports this, with Celtic-style dogs appearing in Roman contexts far from their place of origin. Roman complaints about their inability to breed dogs of comparable size and temperament highlight something crucial. Celtic dogs were the product of long-term, selective human choice, even without formal breeding systems. The Celts selected dogs that worked. Over generations, this created stable, recognizable types. It's important to be clear, the Celts did not create breeds in the modern sense. There were no written standards, no closed gene pools, and no concern for uniform appearance. What they created instead were functional populations, dogs shaped by environment, task, and human need. A dog that could hunt wolves, guard livestock, survive winter, and obey commands was valuable. Everything else was secondary. When we piece together skeletal evidence, burial practices, artistic representation, and historical accounts, a consistent picture emerges. Dogs in Celtic society were widely kept across social classes, functionally specialized rather than decorative, treated differently from food animals, associated with protection, hunting, and status, embedded in belief systems about duty and the afterlife. They were not pets in the modern sense. They were collaborators. In the Celtic world, dogs lived at the boundary between settlement and wilderness, between life and death, between the human and animal spheres. Archaeology shows us that this boundary mattered. A dog was not simply owned, it was relied upon. And in a world where survival depended on strength, vigilance, and loyalty, few animals earned trust the way dogs did. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe for further videos on the history of dogs and other animals throughout history. See you next time.